Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I pray everyone had a happy holidays. This week's discussion board is Chapter 39, The Destiny of a Nation of Christian America. Shall the earth be made to bring forth a day, or shall a nation be born a once? Isaiah, and that was Isaiah 66 and 8. I'm going to try to get through this in 5 minutes because we have 5 minutes to try to get all this done. We have three sections that we have to get through: the challenge of America in the West, the inflammable James McGrady, and the slavery and Christianity. Breacher believed firmly that a vast new empire was opening in the wilderness. And if you look at any movies, any type of pioneer movies, Western movies, when we began to occupy the United States, there was always a movement towards West, whether it was a gold rush or whether it was something. People were moving West. And as they moved West and populated these towns and all these things, they needed some type of law. Breacher talks about this. They needed some type of stability, some type of law, some type of democracy. And Christianity was kind of that which brought that type of people kind of to grips or to law or to some type of understanding or agreements. After Revolutionary War, America poured into the territories, the whole continent. I like when he said that. I guess this was the Shelby's joke. He said as people poured in, the continent kind of tilted toward the Pacific between 1792 and 1822. That's what he's really talking about, is just the population, how people poured in. There was two instruments that at that time was vital to the spread into Christianity, and that was voluntary and revival. Revival is always been a thing, even in churches today. I know in African American churches we always having a revival, but then they brought in the tents, and they would come and they would preach in these towns, and a lot of people, and I mean these rugged towns, they grasped it. It's something that encouraged it. It's something that they came out to see. They flocked out to see. They loaded the wagons and everything, and they went out there and see these preachers preach these very encouraging or animated sermons. So they came, and here James McGrady. He was one of those preachers. He preached in small towns and congregations, the Jasper River, the Muddy River, and Logan County. McGrady, he was a Pentecostal, and he was one of those guys. Like if you think about Billy Graham, D.L. Moody, and those campaigns, which they took it from the outside and they brought it in, and it still worked for them. So these were great things. And Christianity amongst slaveries. This was a big thing because a lot of masters didn't want to teach their slaves how to read. They didn't believe they should, but some also did believe that if they taught them how to read, they behaved better. They were better disciplined. But in that, when they began to read, a lot of the things and the stories that came to them, and that was those stories that, of Moses and let my people go, and the people crossing Jordan and being free. These were some of those things. And there were also some Negro preachers that arose, and from these things, because the masters allowed them to have churches, and Negro preachers arose, and that was something good. Then Willard Spree also explained chief among these events was Exodus, and that's what I was just talking about. Exodus was one of the first among the biblical characters was Jesus, the Egyptian bondage, God's people, the deliverance from Egypt, the passage of the Red Sea, the destruction of Pharaoh, the host at the sea, and the wilderness, and the desert, and all these things were great things of encouragement for African American slaves. There was and it says here when he was talking about the Revolutionary War and the North against the South, and all sides of struggles, and then the use of the same set of symbols. There was a Bible, one heaven, one hell, one Jesus, one path for salvation, and yet symbols were employed for opposite cause. How could God be the God of the South against the North, and of the North against the South? How could Could he have sponsored slavery? A Southerner said, oppose slavery as Northerners contended. So again, we can never know what God is thinking. God is a God that has given us a word and given us that encourage us, and that we must, that's our God in life as faithful people. But we'll never know what God's thinking. And this week's lesson is an awesome lesson because it gives us a look on how the Christianity spread here in America, and also gives you kind of like a movie view of how it spread it through people populating and moving to the West, and how revivals and volunteer work was so important at that time, and how during a slavery time preachers arose and people were encouraged through the Bible, and how even African American churches were built. So I just thank y'all great for this lesson. I went over just a little bit, but y'all have a great evening and a great night. Again, thank y'all for tuning into my post.